Hi everyone, I'm Jalen. I'm a social media manager and this is my April Q&A. Every month I ask my followers over on Instagram what they want me to answer in terms of what they should know about Instagram strategy, content pillars, personal branding, all of that good stuff. So make sure you subscribe, that way you don't miss out on any of my monthly Q&As. So the first question I got was, what are my top tools as a social media manager? So my number one top tool is Canva. I use Canva for all of my Instagram templates. I use it for my audits. I use it for all of my client onboarding templates, anything you can think of. It's so versatile and it's really great when you have multiple clients because you can save all of their different branding on there. So that one is my number one tool. My number two tool is Stan Store. It is my link in bio store/tool. I have all of my digital products and services on there, and it makes it super easy when someone purchases one of my products. It handles all the payments, it handles the emails, and it's super efficient. I highly recommend it for anybody who is a service-based business. The next question I got is, how do you avoid burnout from daily posting? So if you didn't know, over on my Instagram, I post every single day, once a day at least, once in feed and then multiple times a day on my stories. So burnout is really easy when you're not planning ahead. I have all of my content planned ahead pretty much every single month. It's batched. So one day out of the month, I sit down like this, I film a bunch of talking videos. I have all of my templates already made in my branding. So I have my carousel templates made, my reel covers made. That way on each day, I don't have to just create something brand new. And I always have a bunch of B-roll on hand. So one tip I always give my clients is every weekend, try to film at least 1 minute of B-roll. Film it while you're walking your dog, while you're cooking dinner. Film it if you go to Starbucks and you're drinking coffee. That way you have, after a month, you have a good bank of B-roll. That way you can pull a clip, put some text on it, and you have a super easy post. So when you're thinking about burnout, you're thinking about how can you be creative, how can you come up with so many ideas. So making sure you have a balance of content pillars, which is going into my next question. What is a good posting strategy for balancing content pillars and content types? So personally, I always recommend to all of my clients to post a mix of content types. Have at least one talking video, one B-roll, one voiceover, one carousel, one static. Now you don't have to be posting 5 times a week, but make sure it's all balanced out within the month. And that goes into content pillars. Now these are not content pillars, but these are something you should also balance. Being personal branded, which is your own experience, your own opinions. Educational, where you're teaching someone tips. And then client pain points, which is directly talking to the struggles that your clients have. And then the fourth one would be just sales or service-based posts. So actual content pillars are subjects that you consistently talk about. One good way to balance everything out is, say you're posting 3 times a week. You could have 2 reels and 1 carousel. And you could have one that's personal branded, one that's a client pain point, and one that is educational. And then the next week you could have one that is sales forward. You could have one that's personal branded, one that's educational. So you could always flip-flop between each week. That way by the end of the month you have a good balance of all of your content. The next question I got is, day 0. What is something you wish you would have done sooner? And is posting consistently at least once a day? What do you recommend? Day 0, one thing I wish I did was post carousels. When I first started posting on my own Instagram, I was posting mostly reels. Then I started experimenting with carousels a few months later, and that's when my growth really started to take off. So one thing I wish I would have done since the beginning is post a balance between reels and carousels, because reels are not the only thing that helps with growth. And does consistently posting mean every single day? No. Consistently posting means you're following a schedule and you're keeping to it for longer than 3, 4, 5 months. So if you're posting once a week consistently for a year, that's consistency. You don't have to post every single day. An example of not consistent is, say you post Monday and then it's 2 weeks later and you post 5 times in one day, and then it's another 3 weeks later and you post every single day. That is not consistent. The next question I got is, do you know how to schedule stories with links? So if you are a social media manager, maybe you're a business owner trying to schedule out your own content, You can schedule your own stories through Meta Business Suite and through a bunch of other platforms like Later. Fortunately, you can't schedule stories with links. One tip I use with my own clients is I go make a story, add a link to it, and then save it, but don't post it. That way, when it comes time to posting your content, you can still have the screenshot of the story and all you have to do is add the link to it. The next question I got is, how do you launch on Instagram without it being awkward? It's always gonna be awkward. It's always gonna be cringy. Anytime anybody starts a new Instagram, it's a little bit funny feeling. But I promise you, nobody is judging you. It's all gonna work out in the end. But some things that you can do to make your launch a little bit less awkward is plan it out. So say you want to do an introduction post, say you want to do a services post that explains what you're selling, say you want to do a client pain point post which explains kind of the struggles that they're dealing with. It's kind of the same as batching your content. I would say make a month worth long of content when you're launching, something that explains your offer. That way you kind of have your services going. Make sure you have some highlight ideas. Make sure you have some pin post ideas. That way when you're launching, you have a good consistent foundation of pin posts, stories, highlights, and regular posts. The next question I got is, many people get followers, but they don't get clients from their followers. What is your experience? So this is kind of true, but not true. It's different for everybody. In my experience, when I first started my Instagram, it didn't really correlate. So when I got followers, I didn't necessarily get clients. But even now, when I'm getting clients, half the time they don't even follow me on Instagram. So if you have a good video, if you have a good carousel, and they reach out to you directly, it doesn't matter if they're following you or not. But one problem it might be is you're attracting the wrong followers who are not your ideal client. So say you're a product photographer and you are talking to other photographers and all of your followers are photographers, that is your ideal client. Your ideal client would be business owners, brands. So make sure they are following you. So this is a question I got on one of my comments from one of my Canva post series. This is a good one I wanted to include. How do we use the same font from Canva across all sorts of different platforms like Flowdesk or my website? So when you are using a font for your brand, say you're using one on Canva and you don't know how to get it somewhere else, you can download it from Google Fonts, or making sure if you're using an Adobe font that you upload it to Canva. That way it's the same across all platforms. Make sure that you have the rights to be using that font in other places. So the next two questions I got were more personal questions. I've been sharing a lot more about my background and experience over on Instagram, so make sure you go follow me for more. But the question I got was, what did you major in college, and what is UI UX design? So I did go to college for fashion design for my AA, and then I went to college for my bachelor's in business management. So I'm not necessarily doing fashion, but I am my own business owner, and a lot of the same things I learned in fashion design correlate to social media management. So when I'm creating color palettes, I did that for my collections. When I'm creating branding designs, I can correlate it because I've done the same thing for styling different outfits or for designing. I love creating Canva templates, which is very similar to the kinds of things I was designing in fashion design. And what is UI UX design? So I've been sharing how I was working with a lot of startups, which is how I got a lot of my social media management experience. I was hired as a social media manager and I ended up doing everything from UI UX design, website design, customer service, influencer gifting, brand management, brand design, you name it, I did it. So UI UX design is user experience and user interface. So say you are building an app, you are creating the layout for that app. Say you're building a website, you are building out the literal template for that website. So these are some examples, but I did dabble in that, and that's something that helped me even build my own website. I hope this was helpful. Make sure you subscribe and follow me over on Instagram. That way you don't miss out on asking me questions for next month's Q&A.